podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Welcome to the Roll for Initiative podcast. The Roll for Initiative podcast, volume number 3, issue 111. I am DM Vince, sitting alongside DM Matt.
Hello, everyone.
Sitting alongside DM Nick as well.
Heidi-ho, neighbor.
And if this is your first time listening to this podcast, we are a podcast about Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition. Yes, I'm going to repeat that every single episode. No, I'm kidding. Just every once in a while to let people know what this is all about in case you're listening for the first time. So, how you guys been doing? Nick?
I've been doing all right. Getting ready for the next game for the kiddies. For Temple of Elemental Evil. I actually came up with for the children's, not those kitties.
Oh, okay.
For the children, for Anna and her friends. And I actually came up with a really cool little, I don't know if you want to call it twist to the plot. Yeah, it's not really a plot twist, but more of a get the kids a little more involved. To show how desperate the situation is, something's going to happen, and it's going to really impact how they're going to go. So I'm really looking forward to writing that one up and really getting the kids into their characters. And I've been reading that book that Tim Kask recommended to us, Playing at the World by John Peterson.
Shelf. It's 700 pages almost. I'm just like afraid to touch it right now.
Oh my gosh, this thing is amazing. I'm up to page 400 right now, and this is written. I'll tell you right now, if you like history, if you like the whole history premise of anything, like myself, because I'm a big history geek, I love this book because it is chock full of information. If you want something a little more casual reading, this is not the book for you. This is very detailed, and it just doesn't go into the beginning of D&D. It goes into how it started, the whys and the wherefores, where all the influences came from. And there's copious amounts of footnotes. I remember one chapter, it had at the end of the chapter over like 150 footnotes just for the one chapter. So, yeah, if you are familiar with history textbooks, this is how this is formatted.
Oh, so it's a real sleeper?
I think for some people it could be. But if you want to find out the whys of where all the influences came on, I think you're going to find some interesting tidbits of information out here. I mean, you're going to find some stuff like you had no idea where the influences came from. I mean, like I'm just reading right now, some of the influences of role-playing came from the sci-fi fan fiction magazine stuff that was going on in the 60s. Okay, he's falling asleep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you reading something? I don't know.
No, I was to explain. Anyway, just give you a kind of a synopsis. Yeah, that's kind of what the book is, but I'm liking it. I'm really enjoying it. So that's what I've been doing so far.
Okay. I didn't mean to fall asleep. I was kidding.
Yeah, fine. Whatever. I'll shut up then.
All right.
I hate you.
Man. Anyway, so let's go over to our resident star, Matt, who is a movie star. No, I'm kidding. Matt, how's it going?
Going okay. Had a severe lack of gaming the past week since I missed last week's show due to intestinal issues. Yeah.
Failed his con.
Yeah, I did. Failed my con Saturday night. I managed to make it out of bed about 7:30 p.m. on Sunday.
I saw the Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you failed your dex.
Failed my con.
What's next? Strength?
I'm afraid at this point. Wisdom,
Wisdom, well, that happens every time you have a few drinks. You fail wisdom.
Yes. And unfortunately, though, it wasn't even instance where I over-imbibed either. It was just, I guess, something I ate or something. So it wasn't even like it was from a wacky night out that'll give me stories to tell the grandkids.
So,
I
well, you're living Cincy, right?
Yes.
You went to Skyline, didn't you?
No, actually, I don't like Skyline. I don't like the Cincinnati chili. No.
Shock, horror.
Yes.
I know everyone brags about the chili too.
Like,
I
why
like
would
it.
you want runny crap?
Not conforming to the mass media opinion of everything. First it's The Walking Dead, now it's the chili.
Exactly. I have my own preferences, and quite frankly, I have no use for Cincinnati chili.
Rebel
I
without
like
a
it.
cause. He's like the new James Dean.
I like it.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
What was that?
But I like it.
Yes.
But then again, I'll eat anything. So
Yeah. Yes, whereas I'm horribly neurotic about food and very, very picky. 5-year-olds
12
aren't as
years
picky.
of military service, you can't be picky.
Yeah.
You get
Is it dead? Okay. Grill it.
Don't you get that like white slop on the bread and everything? And
That's gravy. It's all right.
oh, is that what it's called? I didn't.
Yeah, just add some salt and pepper. You're good.
Ugh. And you have 10 minutes to eat, right?
If you're lucky.
Yeah, I know my brother-in-law when he came back from his service over in Iraq. As soon as he'd sit down, undo everything, he'd look at his plate and and he wouldn't say a word. And then all of a sudden he'd be done. It was like, dude,
Yeah, it took me a while to kind of break that
Civilize
habit.
yourself.
So, yeah. So how about you, Vince? What you been up to?
I did have a game this weekend. I had to cancel because I was sick too. I failed my Constitution check.
No.
And,
Failed save versus poison.
yeah, I wasn't feeling well, so I had to cancel my game, and the group was a little bit mad. But, you know, things happen. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I know some of them listen, so sorry, guys. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, you know, it happens.
It does, and I apologize. And, you know, next week we'll play, or the week after, whatever. Anyway, if you probably heard a laugh or two in the background of a different voice, and we're going to introduce that different...
Who is it?
Right after this? No, there's no commercials on the show, sorry.
After this commercial break.
After this, we'll be back after these words. Matt, insert a word here.
Word.
There we go. We're back, folks.
No, it could have been like spatula.
Anyway, so our guest this week is filling in as our guest DM, GM. Well, we'll just call him GM for this week. And it's Jason, not that Jason.
Jason Voorhees. Oh no, he's going to kill.
Not that Jason either. This is Jason without a Y. We'll call him Jason without a Y. Jason, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well, going on about 2 hours sleep, so hopefully I can work on my I don't know.
It's like he's falling asleep now.
Just
It was from
stretching
Nick
a little
reading
bit
from
there.
that book.
I didn't
Yeah.
read from the book. That was actually from my. Hey.
History novel in effect. Anyway. Yeah, so Jason, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to?
All right, well, I guess I'd go with my I'll start off with my like gaming pedigree, so to speak. That's what everyone seems to do. So I started with Blue Book probably in 1981, and
Hey.
yeah, and I got started. I was going to day camp, and they had swimming in the morning, and then for whatever reason they didn't have anything specific going on in the afternoon, and so they had another swim kind of a thing. And a couple of the counselors were like, "Well, look, if you don't want to go swimming, you can do this. We're going to play this game," and it happened to be Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, I played a cleric. And I was just like immediately hooked. I was like, this is awesome. Like I remember turning like skeletons or zombies. And then for whatever reason, they gave me a ring of fireballs. And I don't know why they would give a cleric that. But anyway, so I used the ring, and it turned out to be cursed. And it came back, and it fried me. And
Man.
Gave it to you.
but here's the thing is like, I was like, I died like in a half an hour, and it didn't matter. I still love the game. So from that
So
point
I
on,
can just picture they're going like, "Here's this ring of fireballs."
yeah, I thought it was awesome. Like, and yeah, little did I know.
Wow.
So then I kind of was on a mission from that point on to find people to play Dungeons and Dragons with. And then for that Christmas, I got the Blue Book, the box set, and I'm not really sure why, but I didn't invite like my friends in the neighborhood. Instead, I invited the neighbors who are like in their 40s and stuff, and so I ran a really short campaign. It was really short lived, probably like 2 or 3 sessions, but retrospectively, it's probably looking pretty funny because I'm like 11-year-old, and I'm like playing with all these adults, and I'm like the DM, and it was kind of cool. But so then in 7th grade, I kind of finally found my group, and we played Basic, the Mulvey Cook edition, and then later on we got into AD&D. Like later that. I think my friend Mel, he was the DM. He got the DM guide and Player's Handbook and Monster Manual for Christmas, and pretty much played that game all throughout high school. We also played Champions for a while. We played Rifts for a while, but it was always like those marathon sessions, of like Friday night and Saturday night playing till like 6 a.m. which is pretty awesome. And
those were the days, huh?
They were, and it's like you'd play all night, and then we played in the basement, which is, I guess probably stereotypical. And then when you like leave, it's like the sun's coming up, and it's like you felt like you accomplished something. Like, yes, I beat the night.
You feel like you're finally emerging out of the dungeon, literally.
Totally. Yeah. So that's kind of my background. The other thing is, when I started playing, I also started collecting comics, and at the time there was this, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but there was this series called Marvel Universe. You guys know about that?
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I'm reading this, it was like really, I got to be honest, it was like the one comic that I was really reading a lot. I started to, this was before I knew about Champions. I started like breaking down like the skills and the powers, and I started kind of working on my own superhero game, because at that point I didn't know about Champions, and I don't think Marvel Superheroes was out yet.
Yeah, I think Marvel Superheroes came out like 83, 84, somewhere in
there.
Yeah,
it was 83, 84 for Marvel.
That sounds about right. Yeah, so I was kind of working on my own superhero game. I mean, I wasn't really working on game mechanics because I didn't really grasp that aspect of it. But I was, working on skills and abilities, and also kind of I was tailoring it kind of like, I really, for some reason, I liked the idea of kind of low-powered superheroes. Like in this game, in theory, like you couldn't be like the Hulk, you couldn't be like Superman, you couldn't be anything like that. You could be more like martial artists, like Master of Kung Fu or Moon Knight or Batman. And that kind of like stuck with me in terms of like, it's like humble, I guess is the word. I kind of like that idea. So that's kind of like followed me throughout, because I've been working on like game design and whatnot. I just kind of started back up again about a year and a half ago, and I guess I could keep talking about this if you want. I guess I was working on this web series, and in one of the episodes, these characters are playing Dungeons and Dragons, and so. I didn't have any of my materials, so I went ahead and on eBay and bought the Metzer edition of Basic and Expert.
Cool.
And so, I had it for this episode, but then I started reading it again, and I was like, well, I kind of want to play again. Like I'm missing this. And the other thing that happened was, I think it was coincidental. I'm not sure. I also, because, no offense to those books, but they're kind of scattered in terms of, how they're laid out. And I was thinking about like, I should combine Expert and Basic into one. This is before I knew about the whole Retroclone thing. Yeah. So then, I started getting more into it, and then I actually downloaded Labyrinth Lord, and it was kind of a curse and a blessing, because I was like, oh, this is what I would do. So I kind of stopped that idea, but it was, but I've since gone on to like working on other things, but I guess that's enough. That's all you need to know.
During your interview, if you heard a loud thud, I don't know if anybody heard that or not. I hope not, but that was my bookshelf rejecting the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd Edition Player's Handbook from it 4 times in a row, and then across the room.
Now that's funny.
It fell off the shelf I'm going to say fell with a quotation. You can't see me quoting it, but it fell off the shelf 4 times when I put it back up there since I found it today. So I have a feeling the book is cursed. I'm no longer putting it on my shelf, and anybody that wants this cursed book may have it.
I think your unseen servant just said no.
Yeah. Like, no, you're not allowed to have a
Put that
2nd
up
edition book in your library.
Were you crazy?
Yeah, but
Is your house haunted? Is that possible?
I don't think so. I just think it doesn't like. Well, if it's haunted, then it really has a bias against 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah,
It surely does.
I don't like 2nd edition. Get this off my shelf, and threw it across the room. Yeah, just weird. Anyway, well, thank you, Jason. We appreciate your background. It was interesting. I like that. I'm glad you like Labyrinth Lore because I love that too myself.
Yeah, Labyrinth Lore, pretty cool game. Pretty cool.
I have that in Mutant Future. I printed up my own like Traveler edition of it and spiral bind it.
Yeah.
It was a
Nice.
tiny little edition, so I love using
I
it.
have to pick up Mutant Future. I haven't gotten that yet.
You should. It's really interesting.
I hear if you like Game World, then you really like a Mutant Future, from what I gather.
I think Mutant Future just killed Nick because he just went away for a second.
Yeah.
So.
What? No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Did you mention Gamma World? I haven't seen that version either. But is it like a clone of Gamma World?
Not really. It's kind of like Gamma World, but it's like their own version of Gamma World. Different rules, Matt, right? Different rules, kind of.
I actually haven't seen it or heard of it prior to this, so I'm just taking it all in. Like, I'll have to hunt this down.
Wow, we actually got stumped. We stumped Matt, the producer.
Stump Matt. We won. We won, Nick. We won.
Yeah.
Yeah, we each get 100 experience points.
Looks like I failed my intelligence check today. Now,
Stats you got left.
That's half the stats, man. What are
Okay.
you going to do next?
let's see. So we've got wisdom, strength, and charisma. Uh-oh.
Failed that years ago.
Well, next time you go on, Matt, if you don't, score, we're gonna say you lost your charisma roll there.
Wisdom, well, that depends on how much you drink and how pretty she is at the end of the night.
Knowing me, it'd be more like I'm in some horribly disfiguring accident. More like, and I'll need a Phantom of the Opera mask.
That
Will that
actually
look
would-
like
whoa.
Don Matlick?
No, the mask would give you some cooled points, so that would no.
Yeah,
I'll be
that's true.
mysterious.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
Don't do those mysterious types. Ew.
Producer fired. Anyway. Anyone wants a job as
Hey,
producer?
so I want to produce a show. No.
Anyway, so let's head on just a little bit of. Oh yes, stars. Nick, stars.
Yes, we have stars. And just to remind everybody out there that for Roll for Initiative podcast, you can find this on iTunes. Just go to the iTunes store, type in Roll for Initiative in the search area, and you can hunt us down from there and click on rating for reviews, and you can add a review to our show. We appreciate every review that we get. We got 2 reviews. One from, it says Sci-Fi Traveler. And he says, I found a new weekly must listen here, and he gives us 5 stars. So he says, 5 stars.
Stars. Oh, sorry. I was in my Resident Evil mode.
Okay.
Guess you never played Resident Evil, huh?
Mm-hmm. Okay, but Sci-Fi Traveler says, I've started playing D&D and AD&D in the late 70s and early 80s, respectively.
Wow.
Those systems opened the door to adventure for me, and I still find myself gaming today. So if you're looking for a quality podcast covering AD&D and universal RPG concepts, this podcast is one for you. I find the discussions well thought out, and enjoy the hosts as they point out counterpoints. I'm sorry. They enjoy the hosts as they point and counterpoint different topics. Boy, I failed to save there too. I highly recommend everyone interested in AD&D or RPGs in general, give it a listen. Cheers to the hosts. Keep up the great content.
Yeah.
And he signs it Weston Lightfingers. So that must be his PC name of a thief.
That's kind of a cool name, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to use that.
Thank you.
Our next one is from E-Man the Wumpus. And he gives us 5 stars. It says, awesome and much appreciated. This is a great podcast, particularly like me and remember when D&D books were all printed in black and white. Yes, we do. I think the four hosts together have great chemistry and balance of personalities and gaming knowledge. My only question is, Nick, what have you done with Blackstone?
Hey.
Good question.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And in fact, Jason, you have to pass that file along to Matt that you had created for us, actually, where you took all the Blackstones and put them together.
Oh yeah. You can download that on my SoundCloud account.
Okay.
Give that link to Matt to stick into our show notes later on after the show.
Sure.
Yeah, anyone's interested, you can download all the Blackstone segments in
Yes, there's an anthology of Blackstone's Vault.
one big chunk. Since Blackstone has been missing,
Well, I have to say, though, that I think he's going to make a return very soon.
Nice.
Finally, all the threats, he's coming back out.
Yeah. He was on hiatus.
Was that the end of the review?
Yeah, that's all the reviews that we have for this week, so thank you, everyone.
Yes, and we'll make sure to bring Blackstone back.
Yes, absolutely. I think probably in the next few weeks, you might hear something from the guy.
Yeah, I bet.
Then again, you might not if you're going to be that snotty about it.
We love Blackstone.
Right, yeah.
So a little bit of geeky news, I wanted to throw that in there because I recently had seen on comingsoon.net.
Geeky News on a podcast about Advanced Dungeons & Dragons? Who would have thought?
Yeah, okay. True. I'm going to beat the dead horse here for you. Guess what was just signed, Nick?
Guess what was just signed?
Guess. You'll never guess.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I know this one.
Okay, I'm going to give you a couple hints here.
No. Don't tell me.
Okay.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Go ahead.
About a particular movie with a particular star signing on?
Maybe.
Oh, well, then proceed.
Why don't you get? What do you think the answer is?
I pretty much heard that Harrison Ford has signed on to do the new Star Wars movie.
That is one of the answers. Yes, there's actually two answers here. I have two.
And Carrie Fisher?
Well, no, I was talking about Harrison Ford. Yes, has signed on to the Star Wars, but we knew that was going to happen. But
Yeah. I bet you there's a clause in that, though, like he has to preview the script.
probably,
Yeah.
we all knew that was going to happen anyway. So, but I'm glad he's on. So,
Me too.
but something else it's maybe more of a B horror cult classic type thing going on, and Matt may know a little bit more about it.
Yes, because there will be a remake of a certain movie, Evil Dead.
But
But
along the same lines, what has Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, and Ivan Raimi always said never to do? Beat the dead horse. And what would that include, Matt? Come on, Matt.
Damn intelligence check.
I'll say it. They've signed for Evil Dead 4.
no.
Yes, they have. 2014 Evil Dead 4. Starring Bruce Campbell.
No way.
Yep. They've done it. They've beat the dead horse, and that movie will be coming out. They're working on a script right now.
Bruce Campbell and his chin will be back.
Yep. I have no idea. They have no direction or any hints to give out, but
I think there'll be a lot of Evil Dead in it.
it's supposed to follow along the same. A lot of Evil Dead in it. Wow. It's supposed to follow along the same cheesy goodness that came out with Army of Darkness. So
Yay!
Yeah.
I loved Army of Darkness.
that's geeky news. If you
I
have
like it.
news, give us a ring or a ding or whatever else.
Or ring a ding dong.
Ring a ding ding dong. Let's head into some sage advice.
Okay.
Sage advice.
Sage advice. Sage advice.
Sage advice. We're gonna have some sage advice.
Jason, you want to sing?
Sage advice. Yeah.
All right.
TV Lounge Act number 3.
Cool. We can like headline in Vegas. Do our own version of the Rat Pack.
No, I think they would kill us.
Call it the Geek
Well-
Pack.
Well, they're already all dead, so.
No, I meant the fans.
Oh, the fans.
Rat Pack.
Yes, the Rat Pack will come and kill us.
Rat Pack as zombies.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
Matt hates that idea.
Ooh.
So, Anything to do with zombies, Matt hates.
Now, but if they were lounge singing, though, I am for some lounge singing. And I am a fan of Richard Cheese.
Well, good. Go watch Angel, the TV show. They have dead zombies on singing in the lounge on that. So
good times.
Definitely.
Meanwhile,
back at the ranch, Batman. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we have our first email. If you want to email us, that's rfistaff@gmail.com, or you can dial us in at 570-865-4210. Where now Jason is standing by. First email comes from Mike, a.k.a. Celestian, from the forums.
hey.
Hey, Mike. I have a question regarding role-playing, in quotes, like Dr. Evil. Role-playing. How do you handle situations where a player is running a high charisma character and he's trying to influence someone using it? Anyone want to answer that question? Don't. Now, before you answer that,
Okay, cool.
Now, before you answer that, think about, say, a person playing an elf with a high dexterity that is wanting to perform some elaborate maneuver. When a player tries to use his charisma to influence someone, I tend to ask them to role-play it, quote, quote. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, I certainly do not expect them to role-play some move that requires high dexterity. I've asked players to do that before just to see if they do it, and it has happened.
And you pointed and laughed, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Okay, cool.
Is this fair? Me, personally, when I DM, have in the past tried to get people to role-play the charisma actions, though thinking about it... I'm not sure if that's fair. I know for a fact I am not highly charismatic, so asking me to roleplay it, I am a terrible RPG. No. Take two. I am a terrible role player, but I love to play. Is like asking me to tightrope walk while spinning 6 plates. It's going to be a mess. I think that'd be best not to penalize players for being unable to roleplay out charisma situations, but if they do give them a bonus to roll and check, should I even feel the need to make one if they do? P.S. Vincent, during our Denton game, Mike is in my local group. If that room with the ice floor trap and hourglass was made up on the spot, as I suspect it might have been, you are really great on your feet. Thanks, Mike. Yes, that was made up on the spot, Mike. You already knew that. Good job. Anyone want to tackle this? Nick?
Because he's that good. And he's evil.
No, not the part. The roleplay part.
Right. I guess you really have to know your players, at least in my opinion. You got to know where their comfort zone is. You know, there might be some players who they're okay with that. They're okay with role playing out, a particular, thing they might have to do with charisma, trying to influence a non-player character or something like that. Others, they might just want to explain what they're trying to do and just, go with the reaction adjustment role and what have you. So I think it comes down to that. I think it comes down to that player's particular, comfort level. Are they okay with role playing it a little bit or not?
What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I think it's almost a version of metagaming, because it's the player is not the character, so you really can't penalize the player for doing something that they don't have or do have. So but yeah, like it makes for interesting role play if they're trying that, but you can't. I don't think it's fair to penalize them for something that they can or cannot do, and go with that's why you have bonuses for reaction adjustments.
Yeah.
So but yeah, like Nick said, if go with the player and if they're comfortable, but again, don't let it influence maybe the game mechanic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
That makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I would say.
I agree with you what you're all saying. Matt, you have any 2 cents to add?
Yeah, I'm similar. I typically let my players start with the role play, and then depending on what they're trying to accomplish, I may decide this would be easy enough, we can just role play through it, or if it's something real challenging, they're going to need to roll. Like, I had a situation recently in my home group where they were trying to barter with a merchant. This at that point, it's a roll. I mean, you can only go back and forth between, well, I think your boots are only worth 2 gold. Well, the merchant's like, no, I think it's worth 3. No, let's just roll and get this over with to speed things
And
along.
if they fail, what do you just say, what do you think you're doing? You some sort of Jedi or something?
Oh, actually, what happened is I had them do an opposed charisma roll. And let's just say my player rolled a 1. At that point, the merchant was so insulted he kicked him out and wouldn't sell anything to him.
That's awesome.
Wow.
It's like, you get out of my store. You insult my goods. This is quality craftsmanship. Get out.
You leave now.
Yes, he was. Yeah. So basically, there is
No
one.
soup for you 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happened. And my player's like, what happened? But, oh, no. And then they had to go find another store to get the boots they needed.
All I did was pick my nose and wipe my butt on his counter. I don't understand.
Yeah, I just did Taylor Swifting across the room.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Watch South Park if you want to figure out that reference. Anyway. So there you go, Mike. Our next email comes from Rob, and he says, hi, I'm new to Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, so new to this podcast. I wanted to start around the beginning. I found the show on the Beholder and clicked the listen to your in-browser button, but it gave me a message saying to follow me to a new link. I did so, but I didn't find the old shows. Are your older shows available? Thanks much. I believe when we started posting these shows up, we didn't actually put a show link in there, Matt, right?
Right. I think most of them should,
Up to the point before you took over was all Jason. He didn't actually put the link in the show notes.
Right. Yeah, and I know I went back and tried to get as many as possible, but there might be some that are missing at a certain date, so I'll have
The
to.
lost episodes.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
that's not the lost episode.
no, there is a yeah.
There is a lost episode we have of our show, but we cannot play that show,
No.
No.
unfortunately.
It is sealed in a vault and not to be opened. Otherwise, it'll be similar to opening the Ark of the Covenant.
That is correct.
My face will melt?
Yes, it will.
Yes. And all who listen to it melt.
Yes, melt and die.
That's not good.
Your Dungeon Suck himself would probably cry too. Anyway, the next email, thanks, Rob. And if you need help finding older shows, there is 2 spots. You can click on the website for our library for MP3s or our library for the enhanced, and both of them will show what our old episodes are. And Matt put up the link for the new
Yeah.
feed,
Right.
if you can.
Will do.
This next email comes from another player in my group, actually. His name is, we call him Geo Jeff because his name's spelled with a G instead of a Jeff.
Oh, like Jeff Peterson on The Late Late Show.
Yeah.
The undead robot.
Yes. He said, hey guys, because he goes by Crit Taco on our forums.
Taco.
Yeah, I love that name.
Is that when you go to Taco Bell and you get the wrong taco?
Yeah, something like that. I recently listened to episode 108. Fantastic job. As a player, I like to have a custom-made character. I get tired of the mundane weapons and armor. How do you, as GMs, I don't see any GMs here, do you? Handle players who wish to create custom-made weapons and inventions, Jeff?
That's a
Matt,
good one.
we'll start with you.
Well, I've never really had that happen. What I would probably do, though, is I would just make it a giant role play session. And so they would have to okay, how are you designing this contraption you're trying to create? And what do you want it to accomplish? Have them actually spell that out. And then just for the stats, like if it's a weapon, be like, okay, how do you want... Okay, think what weapons would be similar in damage and try it that way. So, I mean, really it would be more of a fluff description in my game than actually something new mechanically. Yeah.
I know for weapons, I would tell them to kind of write it out and then seek out a blacksmith in the game to help them design it. Mm-hmm. Inventions, find a gnome. Go to the gnome city, find a tinker. There you go. Watch them screw it up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like for weapons, I don't know. I've never run into that situation
Yeah,
before.
I haven't
but
either.
I guess what I would do is I would do something similar to Jason would say is like probably have the character do some research, probably with a blacksmith on maybe working closely with the blacksmith on like, hey, this is the design I want. This is what I want it to do. Can you do this? What do I have to take into consideration? I guess that would be one way. It would almost be like kind of like a role play situation, but I don't know as far as stats and stuff. Oh, that's a toughie. I mean, as soon as I heard the question, I'm like, oh great, they want to design the 3-bladed sword from the Sword and the Sorcerer, or the glaive from Krull. So which is not a glaive at all. It doesn't look like anything like a polearm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I'd do the same thing like you would do, Vince.
Yeah.
Just work closely with the blacksmith, and as far as after that, the stats for it that would come out later. I don't know what I would use for a reference. So I guess it depends on what it's. Is it like a sword? Is it like a polearm? Is it like a dagger? I guess I would use something as a baseline.
What if it was a duck?
Well, then, see, the duck, it depends on what species. Is it more like a mallard? Is it like
Is it a horse-sized duck?
Yes. And what is the size of the duck?
Speaking of ducks, actually, speaking in size of, we actually have one of my players in my group said when he wanted to start this new campaign I started a couple weeks ago, his name is David. He's like, I'll play in the game, but I want a war chicken. So I actually had to sit down one day and design a war chicken for him.
Chicken?
Yeah, I wrote up chicken, war. I statted
War chicken.
Yeah, I statted the whole chicken out for him. And the chicken is more awesome than he is actually at this point.
Well, when the chicken dies, at least he won't be without a meal.
Oh, he's going to be insulted by that, Nick.
I don't care. It's a war chicken, dude.
And should.
2 foot high war chicken.
Okay, I've heard of war moose. I'm good with a war moose.
Valermo?
A killer whale that you could ride in, but a chicken.
It's awesome, the war chicken.
Yeah.
It is, really.
It is.
If he's using it as a mount, if it gets decapitated, he'll still be able to travel a little bit.
No, it's not a mount. It's just he's playing a magic user.
Oh, okay.
His magic
Obviously, the magic user is insane.
The magic user's name is Old Humie. They just call him Old Humie, even though he's not really old. I have no idea.
And I'm not old.
And he has an attraction to half orcs.
Okay.
Because his character spent time in jail with a half orc. We'll just leave it at that.
So he's attracted to half orcs, and he has a war chicken.
Yes, Old Humie.
Not a war rooster.
Do
But a war chicken.
the half orcs think his war chicken sexy?
No, the war chicken came after his affliction for half orcs.
Okay.
It's a long story that I can't really repeat on a family podcast, so fade to black, think himself.
Got it.
Okay, so thank you.
I've heard it all now. A war
Let's
chicken.
go to our next email before we digress.
I want to have a war goldfish.
You too can have a war goldfish.
How much damage can a war chicken do?
A 2 foot high war chicken?
Yeah.
D4 damage for a beak and D4 damage for a claw.
As much as a dagger.
That's not bad. I mean, yeah, if it's a magic user, they're going to do the same thing. And
You can wear leather armor on the chicken, so.
Yeah.
We are getting in a really, really dark area right now. I'm going to dress my war chicken in leather.
you got like a real nonconformist player there, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. I encourage things in my group to be non-traditional. I don't really...
Yes.
No
matter how warped as they are, he encourages it.
Why? Hey, it works. It sounds like it works,
It does, and it's a lot of fun. My games aren't like traditional, I'm going to stick to the book and be this dungeon master that hides behind my screen and, those things like that. So I do hide behind
The
my
war chicken works. That's just a whole... Wow. That's...
I think Nick has a secret fantasy about war chickens.
No, it's just like, what? Okay.
At least it
That's
wasn't
cool.
a duck, all right?
So does it lay war eggs, or are they like grenades? What
We haven't decided. He actually did ask that question. Well, does it lay eggs? And I said yes, it lays eggs, but only for purposes of eating, and that's it.
You can't like hurl them and they explode.
No, I don't want to give him any more ideas.
What
Too
if,
late. Oh wait, we'll edit that out.
what if he took the eggs and just let them sit around for a while, then threw them as a grenade of stink cloud?
That you could do, and it'd be very disgusting, Matt. Thank you for giving him another idea.
Yes.
Matt. Next email before I get any more ideas for him. This one comes from DM Kojo. Yay.
Hey, DM Kojo, cool.
He greets us in his normal greeting of RFI gurus. I don't know, we're gurus now. Yay.
Wow.
If you've seen his post on our forums, you've noticed he's recently acquired a copy of the Deities and Demigods book with the Cthulhu mythos in it for a reasonable price.
Did he fail his sand?
Did he what?
Did he fail his sanity?
Yeah, he must have, yes, because he paid for the book. So
Okay.
he got a pretty good deal on it, actually. So he sat down and read the book, and he was shocked to find something that he totally missed a couple years ago when he was a kid. He found that on page 9, under the heading of Clerics and Deities, that it states first and second level spells are gained through Cleric's faith alone.
Mm-hmm.
This rule he never knew and never used, pretty much. He said, it went on, however, it said, a third and fourth level spells are granted by the means of the cleric's deity or the deity themselves if it is a demigod. Therefore, a demigod cannot grant spells above fifth level. So the cleric of a demigod may not use sixth or seventh level spells. In addition, only greater gods can grant seventh level spells, meaning if the cleric worships a lesser god, they only get to use up to sixth level spells. This explains why the book has divided deities into demigods, lesser, greater gods in the book. This is an interesting rule, and I just never used it because I never really knew about it. I suspect that when I read this book in the 80s, my power gaming tendencies were distracted by the tables of ability scores over 18 on page 7, and I never really read the next few pages.
Perfectly understandable.
Yeah. So my question to you, Nick, and I'm pointing at you if I were standing next to you.
I'm scared.
Okay. I won't point at you then.
I'm not scared.
Okay. Then I will point at you with a dagger. Is whether or not you force this rule when your players are using a cleric, or do you hand wave and let it whatever spell and it allows them to do? Thanks. It came up with great work. DM Kojo. Nick?
Good question. Wow.
Was that Christopher Walken?
Yeah. Questions, clerics, spells, going crazy there. Wow. Actually, I guess I would. If I'm using deities and demigods, I think I would impose those particular restrictions. I think it makes sense. Because there's certain power levels of gods, and only certain gods can grant somebody power. It was like the thing when I brought up about module N1 against the cult of the reptile god.
Blech.
That the whole thing with the temple in the town, how all the priests were turned over to the reptile cult. How are these, higher level clerics like fifth level and such getting third level spells?
What? I don't have the book in front of me. What year was Deity and Demigods printed at?
1980.
80. So it was before the DMG.
No, DMG
after.
was 79.
That's right, 79. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was after.
Because it contradicts kind of what the DMG says in a way. So what do you do? Go for the DMG, I say.
I get, you know what? I think it's entirely up to the DM in that respect. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to go with the DM Dungeon Master Guide, the guidelines were provided there, go for it. But if you like deities and demigods about, the power progression of the different gods and what they can grant, go with that too. Whatever works in your game, but like we always say, be consistent.
Word.
Word
up.
Jason, what do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. Were you not done?
No, I was just going to say, I think I would use that, though. I would use deities and demigods.
Okay. Jason?
DMG, I guess I'd go with that. I guess it depends on.
There's no right or wrong answer here.
Yeah, there really isn't.
I guess it depends on maybe the god they're worshiping, and just like how that's going to limit maybe their spell use. I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't really have a solid stance on this.
I've never really used it, so
Yeah, I have used the first and second level spells only not coming from the god themselves, but faith.
yeah, it's
Right.
what
Yeah.
it says. Yeah.
Yeah, I use that so that way it kind of keeps those clerics in line, because if all of a sudden they're still faithful, but they're not really following the tenets as well as they should, oh no, why can't you get a third level spell? Perhaps you should be a better cleric.
Yeah.
Matt's a mean DM.
He's not evil. He's just mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
You know,
I'm
I-
also the one who, if they want to try something that maybe they don't quite have access to and they're a cleric, I let them appeal to their god. And depending on how faithful they've been, the god will grant them some things that they wouldn't be able to do normally. In my game, the cleric had no torches, no light, and he was trying to flee a tower that was flooding. So he prayed to the giant spaghetti monster, because that's the deity he worships, and
Ha 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 ha.
SpaghettiOs.
he appealed to it, and the spaghetti monster heard his call and was like, here's a little light pebble, go. So because he was a good cleric in that instance, because one of the tenets of the flying spaghetti monster is pirates are very good people. They prevent global warming, because the more pirates and global warming have an inverse relationship. More pirates, less global warming. More global warming, less pirates. And his group was actually doing battle with pirates at the time, and he chose not to get involved and left. So he was being good in the eyes of the spaghetti monster, so that's why the spaghetti monster granted him the light to flee.
I don't understand the spaghetti monster's philosophy of global warming versus the pirates, but all right.
Yeah.
Just go with it.
Don't question the spaghetti monster.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will not.
I think it also brings up the larger question with clerics and their faith is how much does religion play in your fantasy campaign? How much of an influence do the gods and goddesses and other divine beings, do they have a role in the lives of the player characters in your game world? So I guess, do you really want something that restrictive or not? For me, I kind of like it. I think it adds a particular layer of reality to it. So
I'm just wondering if the spaghetti monster is Prego based or Ragu based.
I think you got to go with Prego.
I think so too.
I think he's far more accepting and embraces all kinds,
Oh, okay.
including even the Newman's Way.
It's organic.
Yeah.
Spaghetti monster must die.
Actually, I've had Newman's own pasta sauce. It's pretty good.
Nick, you must know. No, I'm sorry.
It's for charity.
Thank you.
Okay. It's for charity. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, doesn't? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Give all their profits to charity. Yeah.
aw. Anyway, I think we have one more email left. This one comes from James Q. Hey guys, long-time listener, first-time correspondent. I recently found a PDF of an early incarnation of M.A.R. Barker's Empire of the Petal Throne game. While I've never been particularly interested in Barker's associated novels, I have been wanting to use the... I've never pronounced this right. Temuco. How's that pronounced, Nick? Tekumel?
Tecumel, I think it's pronounced.
As a campaign setting for AD&D for a while now. Although Empire of the Petal Throne's rules bear a strong family resemblance to those of AD&D and OD&D, some things, like weird magic systems, make conversion seem more of a daunting task than I've initially envisioned. Do you know if anyone has produced a conversion between the two, between Empire of the Petal Throne and 1E? If not, what monsters, magic, and other AD&D elements can easily be reskinned to fit the setting? It's a shame that after the demise of the Empire of the Petal Throne, as a separate game, its only legacy in AD&D was a stupid come win a stat. James Q. I don't think comeliness is stupid now at this point in my life. So
No, I'm good with the comeliness stat.
I've
but
never played Empire of the Pearl Throne. I've never even read it, so I can't even answer this question. Sorry.
I'm vaguely familiar with it. I know the history behind it being it was technically the first campaign setting that was out for D&D.
Was it?
As far as in print for, I guess, if you're not talking about the Greyhawk and Blackmore supplements for original D&D, yeah, Empire of the Pearl Throne, I know when it was produced, the original box set, and I think it was one of the first real box sets. I know they had a beautiful map for it. It was I superbly done. And
I know this time they asked a question when I was on Save or Die about Empire of the Pearl Throne. Mike was always like, "Nah, I don't like it."
Yeah, it's really out there. It's not your typical.
It's like warp fantasy, or
It's more along the lines of like John Carter, Warlord of Mars kind of thing. It's more along that type of thing. I also get the impression, if you remember later on in the 80s, there was a game called Drone.
yeah.
I think it was called. It's kind of like that.
Is it like Empire of the Pearl? Is it like Empire of the Pearl?
Yeah,
Yes, it
Empire
is.
of the Pearl is like Empire of the Pearl Throne.
I was
Funny,
gonna say,
yeah.
is it like Lamentations of the Flame Princess type thing? Like that warp type of fantasy type thing?
I wouldn't say that. I know when Barker made the campaign setting, it was more along the lines as if you want to picture the different types of cultures that are more about like India, Mesoamerica, South Central America kind of flavor to the world. I if I remember correctly, I believe metal is very rare in the campaign setting. I also recall in earlier issues of Dragon Magazine, there was also a push for Empire of the Pearl Throne as more of like also a very good war game setting because of the unique types of armies that are involved with the setting. Yeah, it's a very much flavor of like the Barsoom series of books, John Carter, Warlord of Mars kind of thing. Very outlandish swords and sorcery kind of stuff. It's almost, yeah, I guess it's almost like a precursor to the Dark Sun, in a way. It's that sort of flavor, kind of Dark Sun-ish, kind of Dying Earth kind of thing. Yeah, it's kind of Gonzo in a way too.
Yeah, I actually found an AD&D conversion rules.
You did?
Yes, on Temecula.com. It's the website just devoted to the World of the Petal Throne. They have unofficial rules, and they have a list of conversions for a ton of game systems.
So TEKUMEL.com?
Yeah.
Put those in the game notes.
Yes, totally. Because they have rules for RuneQuest, AD&D, 3rd Edition, Fudge, cinematic role-playing, Talislantia. I mean,
wow.
they've got,
Really? Talislantia?
yeah.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah.
Hey,
I love Fudge.
Matt made his intelligence check this time. Awesome.
Yeah.
No, he just made his Google food check. That's
Yeah.
all.
Well, I had a lot of bonuses thanks to the
Never
aid of the
ever
Google.
dispute Matt's Google food ever.
Yeah, only his intelligence for today.
Yeah.
So that's all the emails we have. Jason, do you have any input about Empire of the Pearl Throne?
I don't know anything about it, but I had a few questions for Nick. I guess, is it like a low magic kind of setting?
Actually, from what I gather, I think the setting, as far as magic is concerned, is pretty much the same as other settings. I could be wrong on that. I don't know if it's necessarily a low magic setting.
And then, go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, no, continue if you got another question about it.
Yeah. So it's mainly what's the word? Humana-centric, like AD&D is
I think so. I think it's pretty much humanocentric. I don't recall anything here about like elves or dwarves or anything like that. There's various different races of humans on Tecumel. If I remember correctly, the background is like this world got cut off from the rest of the universe. And it was colonized tens of thousands of years ago by humans, and then somehow got cut off from the rest of the universe. It's like its own little pocket universe. If I remember reading the thing about it a while back. The only thing I regret is I remember someone getting a box set of the Empire of the Petal Throne years ago, and I never got it. I think it's a pretty cool game setting. It's different, definitely unique.
This website is really amazing looking.
Yeah, and now that Matt mentioned, I think I went there one time. I'm gonna have to check out their AD&D conversions.
Yeah, definitely. This is a great site. They did a lot of. Yeah, definitely go to the site and check it out. I won't ruin it for anybody.
Yeah, Barker, I know, was a huge influence in the early years of the role playing scene in the late 70s, when everything was really just starting to kick off with D&D, and the other game systems were starting to emerge, like RuneQuest and Tunnels and Trolls. So, pretty cool guy. And he wrote some pretty good stuff too, as far as like his novelizations. He did some pretty cool stuff based in Techiemel.
So is this a series of books then?
Yeah, I remember one series of books that he did that, as far as his fiction is concerned, I think it was called Man of Gold, and it's based in Techiemel. I think the Man of Gold was like a robot made of gold or something like that. So yeah, there's a little bit of kind of like Dying Earth, kind of post-apocalyptic feel to this planet. So yeah, it's got a little bit of everything in there.
Do you know, like offhand, like when those books were written?
Empire of Petal Throne was like
75?
75, 76.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was one of the early precursors to the campaign settings that came on later on, like with the Greyhawk Folio and all the other campaign settings that came on afterwards. It was the one first box setting that came out for a role playing game.
I noticed it was copyright 75 and then 2010 by Barker on the site here, so he must have done something in 2010.
Do they talk about that campaign setting in that book?
No,
I don't know. I don't have any of the fiction.
No. I mean, in the history of RPG, was
playing it at the World.
Tim Casks wrote or something, or recommended?
You know what? I don't know. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I can actually look in the index here, and if they talk about Empire of the Petal Throne, I can let you know real quick.
Was 84, Flame Song 87. Then they have a couple books in 2003, 2002, and 2003. Yeah, so okay. There's 5 books in total you can look in.
Yeah, actually, they talk about Empire of the Petal Throne in this book.
Cool.
So I haven't gotten to that point yet. It's later on.
Well, Nick, start
on page 500. So
read faster, Nick.
All right, I got 100 more pages to go, but this is how inclusive this book is. How it is the history of D&D and early role-playing games.
You could
all 700 pages of it.
Issues about this world in Dragon 4, 11, 20, 24, 26, 31, and 34.
Yeah, it was all the Tim Kask issues.
Yeah,
that he was involved with. Yeah,
and they're in White Dwarf 10 and 54.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm looking at the webpage. It says White Dwarf 10 and 54.
Okay.
Cool. And Brett Slocum did most of the work for the Excel format here for the sheet of where you could find where everything's located. Cool. Anyway, that's that. So I guess that's going to end Sage Advice. If you want to give us an email, rfistaff@gmail.com or 570-865-4210, the hotline. That'll put us into our table matters next.
Typical. Of all the evil creatures in the world, I'd like to find one with table manners.
What, are you kidding me? I spent years cultivating the worst table manners on the planet.
Table manners.
Okay. Table manners. 2 tonight. Table Manners tonight. Sounds like I'm doing Tonight Show. Table Manners tonight. But
What do we have, Jay?
then we have this thing right here. My head bobbing back and forth.
Yeah. This actually was a topic that was talked about on our forums a couple weeks ago or last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically we're going to review a module about zero-level characters. Because a lot of people were asking about, well, what do you do with zero-level characters? So, kind of wanted to throw this one out.
Yeah.
Interrupting you.
I thought this was really cool to do as far as doing this module N4 Treasure Hunt by Aaron Alston.
Who wrote the Rules Encyclopedia, right?
I believe so.
I think he's Encyclopedia writer, yeah. Go on.
But what it does is gives rules for basically how to start zero-level characters. And just some guidelines on what goes on, making a zero-level character, what you need to do as far as race, class, alignment. Basically, going right through it is, as far as race, you could be any race in the player's handbook. Class, don't worry about that. You're going to determine that later. So
alignment you'll determine later on as well.
Yeah, alignment. You start basically as neutral. Hit points, you have a couple options, either like enroll a D6 or hit points, or you can start with a maximum of 6 hit points, or you'll take the best out of 3d6. So that's one thing. And do languages.
Just a standard common.
Yeah, you speak common tongue, but if you're like a dwarf or elf or anything, obviously speak your racial tongue as well. If you use alignment languages, you don't know an alignment language yet.
Right.
I like the section on secondary skills. It brings up the Dungeon Master's Guide section on secondary skills on, what your character might be doing as a profession, and you can use that chart out of the Dungeon Master's Guide as a kind of a guideline for that. So you can either roll on the chart there, or you can, or maybe if you want to pick it too. I mean, you could roll it. If you're lucky, you could be fisherman, Boyer, Fletcher, armorer. I think stonemason's one of them. So, but it does say you don't want to necessarily use it to,
shoehorn a character.
Yeah, to shoehorn the character, exactly. That secondary skill basically could be helpful in certain situations that might arise in the adventure.
It's just to help you out with role playing a little bit.
Yeah, at least give you a background.
Mm-hmm.
Money, equipment, I wouldn't worry about it. You're just going to find whatever you can find in the adventure as the course of the adventure goes. And as far as experience points and whatever, you start at negative 500 experience points, and that's pretty much it. So
I might freak out about negative 500, but this adventure will put you, by the time you get to what they call episode 4, you'll have enough experience to be almost level 1 as it is. So
yeah, you do. So that's really pretty much the character creation. You can do wherever you want as far as where you want to put your ability scores are. Your alignment's neutral. Probably you got to start with 6 hit points. And you have negative 500 experience.
Speaking about the hit points, I've noticed that when you get later on in this module in the DM section, they talk about that when you go to pick your character class, alignment, and everything. I think if you're picking a magic user or an illusionist, they get a pretty good advantage as far as these hit points are concerned, because you don't re-roll the hit points or make them re-roll. If they have 6 and say they have a bonus and they get 8 total, they're having a magic user that's starting it with 8 hit points.
Sure.
Which is a very good bonus for a magic user.
Huge advantage, or if you're a thief or assassin character, I don't think you need the re-roll either.
Mm-mm.
So, And they give a brief description at the beginning of where this adventure is set in some place called the Corin Archipelago.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have a thing at the very end of the module, a little bit more about the archipelago and where it might fit in a particular campaign setting. And really, I like what they say. It's like, whatever campaign set, you can just plop it off anywhere off some coast that you have. Maybe change the names of certain things here and there if you want to, and boom, you're done. That's all you need to do.
Oh, and make sure each character picks one of the 3 weapon proficiencies allowed to start off.
Oh, yes, yeah.
A dagger, a staff, or what was it?
Dart.
Dart, yeah.
Dart, dagger, or quarterstaff.
Right.
So what... and then after that, it goes into the basics of the adventure. You want to talk about that there, Vince? The basic plot?
Well, it kind of starts off that you're all these people from this islands in this area, which Nick had alluded to before. And each of your characters has a background. They're saying that your character was doing that profession, a trapper or whatever, a miner, maybe even a blacksmith, on these particular islands, not irons. And what happens is it's kind of you get kidnapped and become slavers on this pirate ship, and they're going to bring you to this place, I guess, to probably sell you off as a slaver. And that's where it puts you at the beginning of the adventure. You're in the bows of the ship, chained to the wall. And then all of a sudden there's this big crash, and the ship crashes into one of the islands where you're going to start the adventure, and then the players have to escape. And they have no weapons. They basically just have basic clothes on, and you have to do a lot of improvising to get off the ship. And your first objective is when you first get out of the chains, which is pretty easy to do because the DM decides one of the chains has been broken by the crash.
Yeah.
Is the player would get out of the chains, and then they would assist the other players getting out of the chains as well. And then their first objective is to sneak past this one pirate that's left on the ship alive.
Right.
A half-orc pirate.
And he's all drunk.
Yeah.
Because he killed the captain.
Yeah.
So you gotta either gotta elude him, maybe capture him, or probably more likely you're gonna kill him. So through all of this, though, what the DM's job is doing is there's a score sheet,
right,
on the back of like the character sheet, more or less, and he's keeping track of all the things that your character has been doing.
Yeah.
As far as what might pertain to a particular character class. If you attempt to do, for example, if you're attempting to do certain types of thief abilities for your character, and then it outlines in the adventure, what penalties you have for trying to attempt these, and any successful time that you do it. I don't even think it has to be successful as long as you attempt it. Get like a little check mark or a little plus sign next to the name to the thief class there.
Right. Yeah. The DM's job is to kind of keep track of the players, how they act. So if the player is like, "Oh, I run an attack with my dagger," you're going to check off something like he's a fighter because obviously he wants to jump in there and fight. As opposed to a character that's like, "Well, I'm going to try to sneak past him, or I'm going to try to climb over the wall and go from behind and backstab him or something, and stab him in the neck." But when he's not watching, thief right there, or assassin maybe.
Right.
And they're keeping track of alignment as well.
Yeah, keeping a track of the alignment, which I think is going to be a little more difficult for a DM to do. I mean, it has to be some overtly obvious, good or evil acts, but that's going to be a little bit more, I guess, a little more subjective.
Yeah, and this is also written for a new DM as well as new players.
Yes.
So I was kind of looking at that going, well, how's a new DM really going to... And they kind of explained it a little bit, how to judge the alignment in the DM section of this, but I think a new DM might have a little bit of trouble with between the alignments. Even reading them really good and maybe going online at this point and just asking a lot of questions to people might help, but it's still kind of... It's hard. There's a lot of arguments when it comes to alignment.
Yeah, I would say the best thing to do is leave the whole alignment thing.
Let the characters pick, unless it's something evil and you don't want evil in your campaign.
Right.
Just let them pick. If they want to be a paladin and be lawful good, just keep a note of that and just be like, well, you kind of went backstabbing and you stole the weapon from your friend when he was sleeping. A paladin really wouldn't do that, dude. You tell them so.
Right. So you'd be definitely out not to be a paladin.
Yeah.
Also, the adventure says that you cannot have multi-class.
Well, yeah, because you're starting out pretty much as a zero level whatever. And
Right.
I something about the adventure too. They assume that everybody's playing a human no matter what.
Yeah, it does seem that way as well.
It's like human. I'm like, well, what if they're playing an elf? I mean,
Yeah, what if they're playing a dwarf?
Yeah, shouldn't they say humanoid or something, or demi-human?
Right. So all this stuff that Vince and I are talking about, like alignment and the different abilities, that's all being tracked by the DM. So there's a little more bookkeeping that might have to be involved with some of this, but not so much though. Just a little bit more, and that's okay because I think it makes it interesting to see how this all develops through the game. So especially when you're crashed on the island and you're trying to get this drunk half orc out of your way. So
yeah. So once you defeat him, however clever method you do, by taking him full on, or maybe even, since Nick said he's drunk, wait until he passes out, maybe, and then try beating him to death with the chains. Because you can take the chains and use them as weapons as well.
Yeah, they're not very good, but you can. Or you can find hunks of wood. You could probably use those as clubs.
Right, at a -4 disadvantage, apparently.
Right.
And as far as the weapon proficiencies go, they have a rule in here for the DMs to say that if a player wants to pick up a certain weapon, for example, they find a sword later on, and they want to use it, allow them to use it, because this is the stage where the character is starting to develop, as they say. Mm-hmm. So they actually tell you that let the player use it at a disadvantage once or twice before they're really solid in combats. And then they can add that to the weapon proficiencies. But you should warn them that by doing that, they're limiting their character choices along the way.
Right.
So
go
ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I did see, though, that in that part one of the adventure where they have to deal with this half-Chris, the half-orc.
Yeah.
If the party is smart, they'll search around the wrecked ship and they'll go into the aft hold. There is a weapon there that they can use.
Yeah.
There's a heavy crossbow and there's some crossbow bolts. So, and if they're lucky, they'll find a book and there's 2 spells in it.
Oh yeah, true. I forgot about
Magic Missile and Sleep. Oh, how fortunate!
And so anyway, if the character wants to pick up that weapon and use it, they're limiting themselves. So it doesn't tell you, but I think as an experienced DM, I would say to the character, before you consider that, think that you're limiting yourself. If you pick that sword, you're no longer allowing yourself to become a magic user or a cleric because they can't use edged weapons. And
whatever.
Unless they're evil. All right, anyway.
Sure. Yeah, continue.
So I would probably warn the player and say, you want to use that sword, that's fine with me, and after a couple combats, you'll be proficient in using it, but that's going to kind of turn you to only be able to be a fighter or maybe a thief or assassin or...
Well, I think when it comes to the cleric thing, I think if they decide to do that, all they do is have to... If you stick with that particular restriction, that restriction for clerics, all they have to do is forswear all edged weapons, and then they become a cleric, and I think that'd be...
Yeah, well, you're losing a proficiency slot for weapons, though.
Yeah, well, then that's the price you pay.
And then you also have to make sure you remind the players, if you get proficient in too many weapons, you will rule out certain classes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll probably want to point out the fact, once the players figure out, hey, if I play around with the sword, I get proficient in it, they're all probably going to play around with every weapon they touch. At which point you're going to end up with a party of nothing but fighters. So,
yeah.
It's certainly true. You could rule it to the fact of saying, okay, you're going to pick up the weapon, you want to try it out, go ahead and use it for this adventure. By the time you reach level 1, decide if you're going to continue with that or just drop it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
an easy way to do it. But that brings actually a good segue to I guess what they call episode 2, the Battle on the Hill. This is where they're going to come into the contact with 2 basically warring factions. You have orcs and goblins, and the orcs and the goblins in this particular part of the campaign world, at least in the archipelago, the orcs are very much like pirates. I guess the goblins are not so much that they say. Basically, they're two different types of warring factions, and they're fighting each other around this hill. And there's the party comes across this. They see the goblins and orcs fighting, and there's several, I guess, rounds of combat that they're able to observe from a particular vantage point. And they could choose to either, attack at a certain point, sneak around, because there's also they observe some old man who's like bound. I don't know if he's gagged or not. I don't remember, but he's bound. He's like in some like little gully somewhere. It's like he's like a prisoner. So this is where, I don't know, they could observe this battle for quite some time. There's one really cool option. It's called bouldering. Basically, there's an outcrop of boulders that they could dump on the whole thing of orcs and goblins and take out most of them in one fell swoop. That's probably almost your best option.
Or they could sit there and wait until the battle's pretty much over and just pick off the rest.
Yeah, you could do that as well. I don't know. I looked at this section. I almost wanted to think of like, how boring will it be for them just to wait it out? You know what I would think that I would almost do, just kind of like a little twist on it? I would say, okay, guys, hold on. You guys, you play the orcs. You guys play the goblins. Now let's fight it out.
Yeah, you could do that.
I would think that'd be a cool way of doing it as well, just so the players wouldn't get bored.
I would just kind of sum it up and say you stand there for a while, you watch this faction of these two wars going on, a couple fall here and there as time passes until you finally see there's only one or two of them left fighting this bloody battle to the end. What do? Do you continue to watch? And then if they said they continue to watch, I would just say, well, then you finally see the last one I would just decide an orc or a goblin, slay the last one, and then the last one left would probably start looting, and that's their opportunity to do something.
Yeah, you could do that as well. And this is where there's an opportunity to get some armor and weapons, battle axes, daggers, bardiche, some padded armor, some spears. So lots of opportunities to get some weapons and equipment.
And battle axe, yeah.
Yep.
Spear, dagger, like you said.
And then when you find the old man, he tells you of, the old manor of the Sea King, where there's going to be lots of loot. So there's the plot hook right there.
which leads you into episode 3. But at the end of each little episodes, which we forgot to mention, they give experience every episode. Mm-hmm. And for every weapon and piece of equipment you gather, you get experience for that as well. For example, the battle axe that you pick up, which is for each. So you can acquire 5 experience points for every battle axe you pick up, which is limited to, let's see, there's 4 there. And there's another, that's 7. So there's 7 battle axes. So that's 35 experience points right there.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad. So if a DM's sitting there, oh my God, that's a lot of experience. No, it's not really.
Not really, because you're starting at negative 500.
Yeah. And then they suggest giving experience point bonuses to individual characters that think up clever methods and clever ways to attack.
Yeah.
Which is another, but you only give them 20 points for that each time for something inventive. But like Nick says, it goes on to the next chapter, and the Temple of the Goddess is next where they go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where they are led by this man. I really hate his name. What is it? Keysteak.
Yeah, Keysteak.
I hate that name.
Sounds like a restaurant.
I know. Welcome to Keysteak Restaurants,
where we serve steak all day, rare and fresh.
Well, I'll just call him Bob. So you find Bob.
No, don't call him Bob.
Okay, Joe. You find Joe.
No, not Joe. That's insulting.
Phil?
How about Nick?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Nick. And, well, you find this old guy.
Yeah.
I'll just call him the old guy. So you find the old guy, and he's going to lead you eventually to, or hopefully to the old manor of the Sea King. But there's also this temple devoted to a particular goddess, and that could be whatever goddess that if you have the deities and demigods, they give some.
Oh no!
Legends and lore, because it was after 1983.
Yes.
But they give some suggestions. I find it interesting that they give any suggestions when it comes to World of Greyhawk fantasy campaign setting.
Shocker! I wonder why.
Because it was 1986, and Gygax was already given the boot.
To boot.
Yeah, so they, like, if you Babylonian, they say Ishtar, Celtic, say Bridget, Isis, Athena, and blah, blah, blah. So, also along with this, going to this temple, you're searching through it, you find the Hall of the Goddess, and eventually...
Well, the temple's desecrated. Is like everything's
what happens? Yeah, the warring factions of orcs and goblins have gone through this place and defaced it, defiled it,
picked it clean, everything like that.
Yeah, but at one point, when the player characters decide to rest up, they feel that this is a safe place. One of them is going to be visited by this goddess, either in a dream or in a vision while they're on guard duty or something.
No, not really in a dream. I didn't read it much. It said she wakes them up.
Yeah.
Rest asleep with a sleep spell. According to what I remember here.
Yeah, I must have misread it then.
Yeah, they said for the first few minutes of the conversation, the other players are out because of the sleep spell that she cast upon them that works up until they fail their roll, pretty much. So.
Mm-hmm. So this is going to happen regardless.
Yeah, but only for the first couple of sentences, they say. Right.
Oh, and then she says that she's been watching them.
Yeah.
So because of all the things that have been happening on the island, she is going to destroy the island within...
It's a great role-playing opportunity to see if any one of the players wants to become a cleric-type character.
Yeah, actually, this is the point where you're going to find out which of the players their character is going to choose to be... go down the path to be the cleric. Because you would actually think, you know what? That's probably the hardest one to determine. Of all the different character classes, which one of them is going to be more of a cleric type? This is where the role play opportunity comes to maybe determine that.
And you get something really, really cool out of this whole situation if you respect the goddess.
Oh, yeah, everybody gets healed up.
Well, not only that,
but
you get that divine favor.
Oh, that's right. If you curry the favor of the goddess, during the rest of the adventure, the character gets an automatic 20 on a die roll where things are at their worst. So if it's like maybe a to hit or a saving throw, that's like a real crucial situation determined by the DM, he'll say, nope, that's a 20.
And the reverse, too. If you disrespect the goddess and you piss her off, reverse happens too. You get the reverse of divine favor, and she'll step in, and regardless of what you roll, the DM will look at you and say, I don't care what the dice says, you automatically fail.
Yeah, and it's at a crucial time.
Yeah, even if it's a 20, the DM is allowed to override that.
Yeah, so like if that sword blow was going to like kill you, but... it only does 1 point of damage. You had 2 hit points. The DM could say, no, it did 3 points of damage.
Yeah, and the weapon you're using or whatever happens starts glowing in the color of the goddess. So you know what's going on.
So that might be the cue to that player character. Oh, yeah. Probably become a cleric.
The one thing I did not think that was fair for 0-level characters was to stick a ghoul in this situation.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. I'm like, there's one ghoul in here. I'm like, really?
That's hiding in like a chimney.
Mm-hmm.
And,
that didn't seem right to me.
I mean, even with player characters having padded armor and, say, a sword and a dagger or whatever, a ghoul with 7 hit points, armor class 6, with 3 attacks.
And paralyzing touch if you're not an elf.
Which could wipe out the whole entire party if everybody has a lot of bad rolls.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, this is where your divine favor is really important.
True. But if nobody warrants a divine favor, then, I guess the goddess will pick somebody to help, and there is a chance that when the ghoul paralyzes you, he's for some reason stringing you up because he wants to make you a tasty morsel for later on.
Yummy meat snack.
He wants to make you into beef jerky, apparently. Because he wants to snap into a Slim Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy's name is Jim. So that
makes sense. But I like how the ghoul comes out. The ghoul is a thief, so he gets to sneak around 40%.
I know. That's even more that's even more mean. So that will lead us to episode 4 when you get to the Manor of the Sea King.
Yay!
So the players will get I guess a map of the manor from the old guy.
The old guy, yeah.
Keystake, or his name Keystake. What a weird name.
I don't know. It's probably randomly generated.
From what?
From steak and keys. I don't know.
But yeah, they talk about the behavior of the orcs and goblins. They do little raids into the manor, but they don't do like out and out battles, try to destroy each other. That whole talk about the whole pirate code, honor amongst thieves sort of thing.
Yeah, and they don't attack each other. They allow each other a certain amount of time to go into this manor and do the raids and pull out without attacking each other because they're the honor among thieves, like you said. But if anybody's caught sneaking in and stealing stuff and they realize it, then they start this little mini battle and they start attacking, and that's when you'll see it happen. But it's odd because they're all kind of just standing outside, kind of like, I'm going to watch you, but I'm going to watch you while you're watching. Mm-hmm. Make sure you're not going in to steal. And they kind of just stand outside and stare at each other.
Yeah. So the player characters, the party has to figure out how they're going to get access. And they give some suggestions on creating a distraction, somehow maybe sneaking in. So they give a couple of those ideas. And then you get to some other key points of interest once they gain access to the manor. So, they could go to the one of them, they get to the Queen's quarters, they encounter some goblins. One important one is when they get to the King's quarters, there are some magic items that they are able to find. There's a wand of magic detection, a dagger +2/+3 versus creatures larger than man size, and a potion of super heroism. So huge help to this 0 level party that's going through.
And then you can find Keystake's quarters and everything, which he's all upset about because it's all destroyed and it's a mess.
Yeah, and then there are some points also actually in the library. There's an interesting area when you would think that they're going to search through the books, but none of them are good. They're all ruined.
Yeah.
But there is a like a wooden plaque, 8-foot tall wooden plaque on the wall, and depicts it's a relief sculpture showing a harpooner drawing back his weapon to release at a distant whale. It looks like the plaque was pulled away a little bit from the wall. It looks like they were searching for maybe a secret door or maybe a safe in the wall. I don't know. But if they look at the plaque long enough, they'll see something rather odd. The harpoon seems to be a separate piece from the rest of the figures. If they take that harpoon off, it is a javelin of lightning.
And then they find the secret passage to go down into the catacombs.
Yes.
Which the old man has been leading them to, which will end that episode pretty much.
Yeah, and this episode 4, This is probably at the point, and they do say at this point in the adventure, where the player characters are going to be first level by this point.
Most of them,
particularly, yeah, most of them should be. Particularly finding these magic items. The only thing I disagree with is separating the experience point values of the magic items evenly amongst the party. I think that whoever gets the magic item gets the XP for it.
Yeah, normally that's how it's played, but I guess for this module they wanted to make sure everybody gets up on a level, so what are you going to do?
Not play it that way?
Well, if you give the experience points to whoever's actually just using the magic items, at that point, if one person just hoarded them all, they'll level a lot quicker than everyone else.
Well, hell, if they get the Wand of Magic Detection, they go up 2,500 experience points.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. So at that point,
I guess you could do it.
You
that
could
way.
theoretically end up with level 2 characters at this point if one person hoarded all of them.
No,
Well, I don't think one person would do that though.
well, technically you can if you go by the rules of the book. You can only go up one level per adventure, no matter what. DMG guide, I believe, says you go up one level and 1 experience points over that level, and that's about it. That's all. No matter how much experience you get, that's about it. Or something to that effect. I just know you can only go up 1 level per adventure, no matter what.
Right.
If you follow Gygax's rule from the book and hit yourself in the face with the microphone. Ow.
Which, after that, they lead to, like you said, the catacombs.
Where the old man has been plotting and scheming to get everybody into to pretty much kill everybody.
And he goes crazy.
Yeah, he turns from this like person that's willing to help and awesome and nice. I mean, he did a little moaning and complaining when he found out his room was destroyed, so the characters had to be like, "Shut up, old man."
Shut up, old man.
Yeah, shut up, old man. Good day. Anyway, and he starts losing his mind. Like, he completely does a 180 now and becomes like this insane, sinister character by sealing the characters in the mind by pulling a lever.
I don't know about sinister, but he does go like crazy.
Maybe.
He just
And he gives a traditional long speech too.
yes, there's a long 1.5-page speech that he gives on like how he basically prayed with the Sea King's magic ring for somehow to preserve the Sea King and the Queen forever. And boy, do you find out how.
And is when he traps the players in the mine, there's 2 things here. He does this purposely so nobody could steal anything from the catacombs and never get in, and to keep the orcs and the goblins out, and to kill the player characters, obviously. But if he already died, say like there was a raid inside the castle and the old man was too loud and he got killed, he had drawn out a map that lead them down a path that will still trigger the falling of the cave. So either way, they're going to be trapped in there.
Right. I just don't like the whole, like, he pulls the lever, they get trapped, and he goes, I'm crazy. I just thought, why don't we just have, like, a natural collapse of the cave, and we can make this nice, likable character still nice and likable.
No, you have to get rid of him.
Oh, okay, fine.
No, sorry, Nick.
Yeah, well, okay. So...
Do you want Steak sticking around? Do you, Nick?
I just don't like his name.
Well, let's kill him.
Okay, fine. He dies. It's worth 16 experience points.
Maybe an earthquake caused by the dragon cult causes the cave to collapse.
No. That's another adventure.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So this is where like things get really like pressed for time because, as the one goddess said, whichever it may be, time's running out. She's going to destroy the island because of all the orcs and goblins that defiled the place. So she's like, you know what? I'm just going to destroy it. To heck with it.
Yeah, so she gives you an extra, 24 hours and says that you have a chance to get off the island. If you're worthy, you'll make it off. If not, oh, well, too bad. You're going to die anyway.
Yep, and this is where they're going to get their chance to get off the island is by breaking through to the crypt of the king and queen and their I guess their son, their prince son. But he isn't detailed because when they get to the crypt of the king and queen, guess what? They're zombies. So what happened was that the old man, Keystake, when he was at the end, like this all happened 60 years ago, the ring that the Sea King had was, yes, as you guessed it, a ring of wishes. And he took the ring off and wished to preserve his king and queen forever. So obviously the other adventure, the DM was a maniacal guy, probably like Vince.
Hey.
Say, yep, preserve them as zombies. So
Yeah.
that's the royal greeting that they get.
Well, how would you handle that? Preserve them? When we put them in a jar with jelly? I have no idea, all right?
I don't know. Stick them in a barrel full of salt?
There you go. So they're salt zombies.
Well, no, you just stick them in a barrel of salt and keep the wish for yourself.
Whoa.
But, well, it's better than them like coming back as like, liches, I suppose. So, which would be out of the scope of this adventure. So what they have to do is in one of the burial crypts, they find a boat.
So this is episode 6 you're talking about.
Yes, episode 6.
At this point, after episode 5 in the catacombs, the characters pretty much have to choose where they're going as far as class and alignment now at this point. Even though there wasn't much, they pretty much should be at the point where they have reached 0 experience points and they have to do any revisions on their character and pick their class at this point in alignment.
Yep.
And the DM's decision overall is the final judgment. Even if the players say otherwise, you pretty much have the final arbitrary decision there. So whatever the DM says, you should go with, unless they're going to really fight and kick their feet on the ground, and then you don't want to really play with them anyway. So,
right, and you just tell them, "Baby, suck your thumb." Wah.
Here's your bottle. Sorry, no. But generally, if the character really wants to play something, you'd say, "All right, well, here, fine."
Yeah, and they could come out with a pretty good haul if they break through, get the boat out to the shore, and they see the storm that comes through, a bunch of tornadoes destroy the island. The end.
Dun dun dun.
But they come out with some pretty good loot that's found in the Sea King's chamber. There's like some dinnerware worth 1,000 gold, the prince's arms and armor, the chainmail, shield, bastard sword, a dagger. There's a chest of gold with 600 gold. The galley is worth 10,000 gold.
Why are they all glowing in that one picture when they're sneaking out and the king is rising to attack them?
Because he's enchanted zombie.
No, not the king himself. The players look like they're glowing.
I think that's just how the artwork is.
Oh, okay.
And the scale mail +1 and a mace +1. So, yeah, and then after that, it's up to you what happens to what the player characters, where they go, and how they live out the rest of their lives. And they start off as first level characters.
The Princess Galley is worth 10,000 gold.
Yeah, 10,000 gold right there.
Yeah. These are going to be some super powerful first level characters by the time they're done.
I know, because they have like a few magical weapons, some magic armor.
More gold than they could ever spend at first level.
Yeah, and they got a ship.
Well, you could be a evil DM and say they get on the ship, they start escaping, and then you notice the boat is starting to sink because you're too heavy.
Or that it's been dry rotted or something like that, and it starts to sink.
Now the adventure finally finishes up, and you're happy-dappy. There's the end of the adventure, but let's just say something goes wrong, Nick.
Yeah, let's just say something goes wrong. Some things aren't right. Basically, they give there's a guideline for the DM when things go wrong, and that's Appendix 1, if things go wrong. And what it is some guidelines, some rules, if you will, for the DM to say if the player characters do something stupid.
Yeah.
And it outlines all the different chapters and say, okay, this is where something really stupid could happen if the player characters do it. Here's another section where they could do something stupid, and this is how you can handle it. So, and this is really a section for your beginner DM.
Yeah.
So they give some guidelines there. So, and that's where it also says, this is an adventure essentially where you don't want to necessarily kill off the characters unless they're doing something dumb. Then they go on to Appendix 2, a brief outline of the Corran Archipelago and how you can incorporate this maybe into a existing campaign world that you may have. And just a little bit of history about it.
And they give you the quick monster area, which I kind of think is cool with the little check boxes, so you don't have to bother writing on a piece of paper or everything. Just as they get damaged, check, check, check.
Yeah.
And cross it out.
And I also like how for putting in a current campaign setting, it says it's one paragraph. It's not difficult to integrate the archipelago in any already existing campaign. Just plant the island chain offshore in some remote point of your existing game world, adjust the names of the surrounding continental nations, and you have it made. I like that.
Yeah.
So, in fact, for those of us like myself, I like to use the World of Greyhawk fantasy campaigns, and I think it'd be a real good spot if you can incorporate it, say, into the Lendor Islands off the southeastern portion of the map. I think that would be a really good spot to plot this archipelago in. I think it fits in with the kind of the area and the inhabitants of the of that region of the World of Greyhawk. So, and you just got to change some things, whereas like you can use the gods and goddesses from World of Greyhawk then, and incorporate that into the larger Lendor Isles campaign setting. If you Lendor Isle mini campaign that you can use, like Bone Hill later on and Assassin's Knot or whatever. So
just use the whole, it's my fantasy world and this is a fantasy game, so who the heck really cares where it's located, and have them get on their little boat and go to your new world.
Yeah, but I'm the lazy DM, remember?
Oh, that's true. You're a lazy DM. I forgot.
Yeah, I don't design my own game world because I'm too lazy.
Overall, it's a pretty interesting story. It's an interesting way to start an adventure. The rules are pretty much laid out for you really well to get the players started, for new DMs, for new players. Mm-hmm. I definitely recommend looking this over if you want to, because I know a lot of people are like, well, if I want to start my character at level 0.
Yeah.
A lot of people were asking that on the forums, so as they asked, it was kind of perfect timing. They were like, hey, by the way, we're doing an adventure on 0-level characters next week.
And by the way, this is adventure is available now for download from dndclassics.com.
That's correct.
So you can get it.
And Nick, since you're more familiar with modules than I am, because I don't really use them, where would you go from N4? What would you go to next?
Like I said, if I was using like World of Greyhawk, I would probably incorporate into that whole Lendor's Isle series. I would go with Secret of Bone Hill, maybe.
So that's N4, 9.
That's L1.
L1.
Secret of Bone Hill. Then you can incorporate L2, 3, and 4. Then that whole mini campaign setting. I guess if you wanted to,
isn't N1, 2, and 3, aren't they novice level modules too?
Yeah, N1 is against the Cult of the Reptile God.
Yeah, so there you go.
You could go that route as well, and I guess really any first through third level adventure that you may have. I mean, there's no real hardcore way that you should do it. I mean, since the party has a 10,000 gold piece value galley,
if they take that,
they could sail pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, those are a couple suggestions. I think that would be good.
Yeah, I guess you can give the players. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I would really give them a 10,000 gold galley there. I mean, like Nick said, like Matt said, let's get some really powerful, rich first level characters. So.
Yes, it does.
It's a Monty Hall, campaign, I guess, in some respects. It is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's that's the way they set it up, and this is. Go ahead, Matt.
You could actually bring the story full circle and have them be attacked by a slaver ship in their new galley.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean,
and then at that point, they get captured again, and we repeat.
Oh, you know what you could do?
Rinse and repeat the module, yeah.
Maybe this ship, if they go to one of the other islands, because it was one of the Sea Kings, this was the Sea King's galley, they can say, you can't take this. We're going to preserve this in memory of the Sea King.
Oh,
Yeah.
You could do that too.
Or they'd be like, you desecrated the tomb. This was in the final resting place of the Sea King, and you took it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, even worse.
Kind of reminds me of like the end of Goonies, the ship out there floating by itself, and all the gold's on it, and they're all standing there watching it, and
Chunk.
Yeah, Chunk.
Sloth love Chunk.
I don't know. I just don't like the ending too much.
No, I don't either. It's like
It makes them
going to give them a 10,000 gold piece value ship.
Well, I don't mean to like raise edition flag wars here, but if you see who wrote it, it's kind of leading into the second edition.
Second edition, yeah. This was written 1986. It came out in 1986.
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting. They were already talking about a second edition around this time.
And that's when I felt
86, 87. They were already talking about a second edition AD&D, and in fact, I think it was around this time.
Yeah.
It might have been a little bit later, but I remember Dragon had like a questionnaire to fill out, what you would like to see in a second edition and all that. So yeah, we're getting on the twilight years of first edition right here.
When they started making things a little bit more mainstream and more heroically powerful with the second edition. And I'm not trying to raise the war flag here, but that's just my feelings, and I apologize to those people that enjoy second edition.
Don't apologize. It's a first edition podcast.
Exactly, but
if they want second edition, they can go to that other one. What's it called? Thaco's Hammer? Yeah,
something like that.
Thac Zero.
The Thac
Zero's Hammer
podcast. Yeah, they can go with the book that I just threw across the room before. And I didn't do that to insult anybody. I got annoying that it kept falling off the shelf.
Yes, we are busting the other podcast chops.
Oh, I don't want to bust the other podcasts. I love them. They're very nice.
I know. We bust on each other. It's okay.
So that's going to be just going to wrap up some table manners. At the end of everything, after we speak everything, we'll give you a review as far as what we thought overall. So that was just a story. And I think we're going to head into some creature feature theater next.
Can I add one thing, though?
Oh, sorry.
There's an article in Dragon 51 that covers the 0 level characters.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
51.
Yeah, it's in, was it Leomund's Tiny Hunt? However that's
yes, Leonard Lakofka.
Yeah. And it's pretty extensive. It goes. I'm kind of a fish out of water with the 0 level character thing. So, but yeah, there's that, and obviously now you can get it on archive.org. So, which is awesome.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And one more point. Are you guys familiar with the Ultimate Dragon Magazine Index article? It's in issue 112.
No.
It's
an index. That's right. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Obviously, it only covers up to issue like 111, but everything before that it's a lot. So just to throw that out there, like for doing research and whatnot. That's
absolutely.
Yeah, it's like I love the Dragon Dex. That's what I use when I look for anything because it covers every issue of Dragon. So it's good, glorious sight for anyone that's just looking for additional reading material. Now that you can get every Dragon magazine for free legally.
Dun dun dun.
Great googly moogly.
Excellent.
Are you saying that I put an abnormal brain into a 7.5-foot long gorilla?
Creature feature theater.
It's alive! It's alive!
All right, so this week in Creature Features, we're going to talk about orcs. And I kind of wanted to, it's not going to be your dad's orcs is what I was going for.
This isn't your dad's orcs we're talking about.
Do they have pig faces?
Yes, by all means. You got to have the pig face.
Of course.
So there's two aspects that I was going to kind of talk about. One is, if you read up on the orcs, they're kind of shrouded in mystery that actually, came about, which leaves it open for the DM to kind of, formulate their own kind of origin. And the other thing is they're, how do I put this on a family podcast? They'll just mate with anything basically, which leaves them, open for, kind of being malleable, kind of, you can kind of make your own kind of orc. Mm-hmm. Which I guess, Nick, you're going to talk about that with the, was it the desert orc?
Yeah, I found out about the desert orc, but I'll talk about that a little bit shortly. But yeah, continue on, please.
So it seems like you can kind of make your own custom orc, and also I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Gazetteer. It's the orcs of Tharn or Thar, I think. Do you guys familiar with that?
For original for basic D&D. Yep.
Yeah, they actually have an AD&D conversion in there, but I just
they
kind
do.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
No, neither did I.
But it's a pretty amazing publication, that one. There's a lot of information, and you can get orc names, and they kind of go on and they say like there's like yellow orcs, there's red orcs, I think there might be black orcs.
Cool.
So I was thinking like, yeah, you can kind of adjust hit dice, you can adjust AC, that kind of a thing, and then with region, wherever they're from, we'll kind of tailor them and maybe give them like a special attack or two, nothing, that great. I mean, we're talking about orcs. So, and I mean, I haven't done it, but I'll probably make out like, just like a PDF of kind of, like a orc generator, so to speak. And I started with, like if you have like a smaller orc would be like, the orc in Monster Manual is a one hit dice creature. So I thought like, well, 1-1, you'd be like a smaller orc, and then you'd kind of give them maybe other things. Maybe they'd be kind of like a thief of some sort in a way, give them a couple thieving spells and be more along the lines of like setting traps and whatnot, just kind of being, kind of like the little guy, but who's finding other ways, in a big world kind of a thing. And then, obviously hit dice 1, hit dice 1+1, hit dice 1+2, and so on. And up to, I thought 2 hit dice is probably the limit you're going to want to go with an orc. Whoa. So there's that, just kind of making your own kind of, breed of orc, so to speak. So, I mean, everyone for the most part uses orcs. So this kind of gives your players a little something else, to fight. So that was the one part. And the other part is in Dragon issue 62, they cover the gods of the orcs. And it's these 5 other lesser gods. And it was written by Roger Moore. And so what I found is, for example, there's the only goddess in the orc pantheon is Luthic.
Yeah, and she's ugly.
Yeah, she's got these long claws. So they mention in the article her clan by name, which is Vile Rune. So if you look in the Monster Manual, it's when they have they give you examples of clan names, Vile Rune is there.
I'll be doggone.
So if you look at more of the clan names, they kind of correspond to the other gods that are in this Dragon magazine. So what I kind of did was I kind of wanted to make them like, the big bad guy. Like you'd have like a shaman who'd be, pretty much have hit dice and hit points of a chieftain, but then they'd have, obviously cleric spells, and it's not gonna, I don't know, maybe up to like a 4th level or 5th level, character could handle this maybe. But all of them kind of are tailored to, their gods. So for example, there's the god Your Truss, I think that's how it's pronounced. It's the lesser god of death and plague. So I made those shamans, up to 5th level. Then that's going from the deity and demigod book with Grumish. Is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, Grumish.
Yep. They can advance to 5th level. So I kind of put that as the ceiling for the rest of them. And there's like 2 other shamans that can only advance to 3rd level. But anyway, so with this god of plagues and disease, I thought that, if you're a 5th level cleric, you get a 3rd level spell. And Animate Dead is 3rd level. So bingo, you can make, skeletons and zombies if you want. And then you've got something else to fight. And, for this god, his symbol is a skeleton. So that made kind of sense. Like, well, okay, so they can make skeletons if they want, And then I kind of went on with that. And, obviously, so, orcs get a -1 in full daylight. So I gave pretty much across the board, except for one shaman, everyone gets like a darkness spell.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of, tailored, everyone's kind of got the different like set of spells. And then there's the clan Leprous Hand. And the god is kind of leprous in appearance. So that kind of made sense to use the Leprous Hand clan for that god.
Oh, that was that one, Urtruce? The
Yes.
white-handed? Yeah. He's,
Yeah.
he looks like something out of the movie Evil Dead.
Totally. And it's pretty nasty because his clerics or shamans wear like sewn skins for their armor. It doesn't really affect their armor class. So that's
Jamie Gum.
pretty awesome.
It puts the personalized skin or it gets the hose.
And then there was only within the text, there was only really one plot hook, but it still worked. And they say that sometimes when the orcs fall upon like disease or plague, they'll increase sacrifices, to the god. So, that kind of, you could, have them raiding a village, for more, slaves, for more, people to sacrifice to the god so that they, kind of rid themselves of the plague. And also what's kind of built in with orcs is they really encourage fighting amongst, inner tribes or whatever, kind of like the Darwinian thinning of the herd. So I was thinking you could have a different tribe kind of causing that plague, like, contaminating like their water supply or whatever. But, the orcs wouldn't know about that. So that could also, depending upon how your players want to, handle it, they could either, discover that and maybe even, I don't know, help out the orcs in some way or just, try to destroy them all kind of a thing. So basically, I kind of went through these 5 gods and kind of, shaped the shamans kind of a thing.
That's pretty cool. That's a good way of doing that. Never would have thought of that.
So that's I don't know. I could go on with each individual god, but I guess I could say that for the PDF file, and it'll be kind of self-explanatory. But that just kind of give you like an overview of what I had in mind.
That's pretty cool. I like that. So
Cool.
it's like each different like clan or tribe, they're going to have a particular god associated with it, and that's a pretty cool looking like how you can make like a really detailed orc society.
Definitely.
I guess kind of going along with that, just like different variations of orcs, is one thing that I found in one of the few issues of White Dwarf magazine I have, way back in issue 64 of White Dwarf, and this was back in April of 1985. There's their Fiend Factory section, and they had this section where they talked. It was like a little blurb about a old desert oasis city called Trogar, and they had a whole bunch of like creatures that were statted out for D&D for them. One of them is one called the Desert Orc. And this orc, and it does have a pig face, And they have they're sandy brown in color. They have pinkish snouts and dark brown hair. They're normal cousins. They have well-developed tusk like lower canines, and some are known to have a short horn based on their foreheads. They have the desert orc tribes. They're very hateful towards other tribes, and the desert orcs principally fight, however, not for tribal respect or honor, not for greed, but simply because they delight in seeing creatures other than themselves in great pain. So they're pretty darn mean. As far as different types of, they have a blurb about their chiefs and chieftains, what sort of sub-chiefs make up their tribes. Basically, what it comes down to, if you have 20 or more, there'll be a group master of 14 hit points and 1 to 2 champions. There's a sub-chief. Their lairs are generally like a wooden stockade with log huts. They have watchtowers, and they're usually defended with heavy and light catapults and possibly some ballistas. And here's a cool thing. 65% chance of the tribe using 1 to 6 giant scorpions as guards. So I thought that was pretty cool. So you got these giant orcs, and they got orcs with scorpions as guards. I thought that was pretty slick. So anyway.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, one of the cool things about this orc, though, is they have like a magical ability. They can create they can control the sand around them. The desert orc can, with the swaying of his hands, cause dust or sand particles at a 20-foot radius to rise in a swirling hypnotic pattern. The effect is like a confused spell lasting 2 to 8 turns with normal saving throws. They could do this twice a day. And that's one unique thing about these desert orcs. They can create these dust storms around them. And the other weapons, they can have generally like scimitars, heavy crossbows, spears, clubs, and daggers. But I just thought this was a cool variant that, they could whip up this dust storm when they feel like they need a little bit more defense. So, yeah, that's the desert orc.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And that's White Dwarf issue 64. And there's a few other cool little baddies in here, but I thought it was one of the things, I think, if I remember back in the day when I got this, is kind of attracted me to this issue, was like, hey, that's a cool variant of an orc.
There's also there's a whole issue in Rolaids with dwarves as well.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people forget to look through. So you want
Rolaids, yeah.
Dwarves and orcs, sorry, in Rolaids.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll look at that too.
Cool.
Anyway, I think that wraps that. Why don't we head over to our last segment, Treasure Chest.
You have opened the treasure chest. You may choose an item.
And now we are opening the treasure chest, and we are going to find a scroll of a spell that I grew to love when playing the old SSI Gold Box games.
Yeah.
The Scroll of Hold Person.
All we got is a scroll? Man.
Yeah.
It's cheap this week, okay?
Who's our DM?
Yeah.
Vince?
No.
Oh.
Joe.
But
oh. Dun, dun, dun.
So don't
the
question.
Great DM Joe.
Do not question why you have this scroll. You have it for a reason.
Okay.
Sure. Yes, because it's a glorious, glorious spell. I love it.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Unless you're the DM.
Oh, yeah. Yes, this is basically able to hold and freeze humans or humanoid creatures for 5 or more melee rounds. And it can do up to 1 to 3 at first level. At 6th level, it holds to at 6 rounds, 7 rounds at 3rd level. So basically you get a +1 to the length for each level you go up. And then depending on how many people you're targeting, they get negative modifiers to their saving throw. Because since it normally targets 3 characters, if you only target 2, they get a -1. If you're only targeting 1, they get a -2 to their saving throw.
So how do you think you're going to use this? I'm going to use it against the one big baddie.
Yep. It's also great for thinning out like a group of guards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would use it, and I would just be like, okay, let's just hold person. Okay, fighter, go up and coup de grace.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it not only affects just the humanoids, though. It also affects all brownies, dryads, dwarves, gnolls, gnomes, goblins, half-elves, halflings, half-orcs, hobgoblins, humans, kobolds, lizardmen, nixies, orcs, pixies, sprites, and troglodytes. So, yeah, it's just a great, useful spell that if you're a cleric, you should know.
Mm-hmm.
That's all there is to it. And something to take in mind is that when cast, if you don't, say, kill the person you're holding, they actually remember everything that happened. They're still aware of their surroundings. They just can't move or speak. So don't use it to say, oh, cast hold person on these guards and try to sneak past them. You'll get past them, but they'll know you did it.
And then on the alarm and you're screwed.
Exactly. Yeah. And go ahead.
No, I had the kind of a variant on that, like where you'd cast hold, person on the guards, but then you could tie them up and then gag them, and then just go about your business, kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah, it's a great way.
You could do that too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, it's great for reducing resistance. And then there's actually one article by Gary in Dragon Magazine, issue 90 on page 16. He just ran through the Fiend Folio Monster Manual 2 and spelled out all creatures that were able to be affected by this spell as well.
And?
So, yeah.
It's a long list, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is quite the long list. And because you...
Does it affect Kenku?
Kenku. Yes, it does.
Okay, then. If it affects Kenku, it can pretty much affect anything.
Yep. Yeah. Kenku, Githyanki, Mite, Mongrelman, Tear, Buka, Azir.
Oh, Bukas.
Bukas, yes. Dugar. I mean, it's just basically just fleshes out the rest of the list. This list also applies to Charm Person as well. So if it's on this list, you can also use Charm Person. So you can start using Charm Person on your Nixies and your Norkers. Or your Shades.
Would this also, like the command spell, would this also encompass that?
This is for any spell that says it works on humanoids. These are
command.
Yeah. This is basically the all-encompassing list of creatures that are affected by humanoid spells.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, definitely check that out, and I'll have links to this article in the show notes.
And it affects how many hit dice?
It's actually 1 to 3 creatures. It's not hit dice.
So this would be like something if you were expecting to go up against the big bad evil dude.
Yeah.
This might be one thing to be put in your arsenal.
Right. It's much better than, say, Sleep that has that hit dice limitation. If you get lucky and they failed their saving throw, it doesn't matter what level they are.
Yeah, if you only affect one guy, they're at -2 on their save. And they got to make that save each round, correct?
It is actually, no, it's not each round. It's once it's hit, it stays for 5 or more melee rounds, depending on your level.
So they got to make that save right at the beginning.
Right. Okay. They have one shot. So if you're feeling lucky, go ahead and cast it, and maybe that 7th level big bad is now all of a sudden not all that scary.
Did I cast the whole person spell on 2 or 3?
You feeling
lucky, punk?
Yeah.
Do you?
The spell is the most powerful spell in the world. Did I just fire off 1 spell or 2 spells?
But this would be a great spell for thieves as well. Oh, I'm going to go rob the merchant. Hold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or like, thieves. Oh, my gosh. A multi-class, like magic user thief.
Yeah.
Definitely would be in his spell repertoire.
Well, it's a clerical spell, so...
it's a clerical spell. Okay,
so that's kind of how they balance some of that. So unless you're of the right faith where casting spells on people and taking their stuff is appropriate...
So you're being an evil cleric?
Right.
A cleric assassin.
Yes.
Cleric assassin.
Cleric assassin.
There you go.
And it is a second-level spell, so it's actually not coming from your god, but basically your faith.
Yeah.
Have faith.
You have to have faith for that to work.
Exactly. You have to have faith to be able to hold a person.
Or hands. One of the two.
Yeah.
On that note, on that note, I think that's going to wrap up the show this week.
We'll wrap it up with jazz hands.
Jazz hands?
Hold person with jazz hands? Okay, no.
You watched the movie Bring It On or something recently? Or
No.
Jazz Fingers? Okay, this goofy show is coming to an end. If you have any input or like to let us know, go to osrgaming.org/forums and join in on the fun and talk to everyone there and communicate with us. Even Blackstone shows up every once in a while on that forum. Oh, I see a guy named Blackstone that writes in the forums. So
yeah, he's been showing up there once in a while.
Yeah. Matt goes in there and he likes to put his posts up as well and give his 2 cents. I'm always there all the time. Jason, you're there often as you can be. Yeah. We invite you to be there as much as possible again after the show. And we appreciate you taking the time to stop on the show and tell us your 2 cents.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, doing the show with us.
No, it was my pleasure. Totally. This is awesome.
Quickly, before we go, we'll just do a quick 1 out of 5 swords as far as the module go. Nick, what do you think? 1 out of 5?
I give it 4 out of 5 swords.
4 or 5? Okay, Jason, what do you think?
I'll be nice. I'll go with 3 swords.
If that's not your real answer, if you want to go with 1 or 2, go ahead. Be nice, be true.
2.5.
2.5. All right. Matt?
I'm going for like a 3.5. I like the concept of being able to start 0-level characters and actually have the characters' actions determine what class they end up. That kind of appeals to me ever since the old Ultima game Quest of the Avatar, where you actually had to basically answer a questionnaire to determine what class you would be allowed to play.
Right. I'm going to go with the 3.5 as well. I kind of like the adventure, but I don't like the ending. That's why I get...
Yeah, I don't like the ending either. The only reason why I give it 4 is I really like the overall concept.
Yeah.
And they give you some good guidelines and rules to go by.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a unique thing for the time.
So what's it going to average out to be, like a 3 point something? I don't know.
3.75 swords?
I think less than that, like 3.6 something. I don't know.
Oh, you math geeks, figure it out.
I'm not a math geek.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to end the show this week, and next week we'll be back with another show. And
no.
Yes, we will. But I'm not.
Hey, we gave you a fair warning, folks.
That's right, and we're not going to talk about anything about the next show. Too bad.
Haha, because we don't know.
Yeah, because exactly. We don't know. Yeah. I have to actually sit down and figure out what the heck we're going to do.
Okay.
War chicken for creature feature.
War chicken.
And
we need to do an April Fool's show. Like Dragon Magazine used to do an April Fool's issue.
If you tell people it's an April Fool's show, it's not an April Fool's show.
No, we won't tell them. We'll just record it and they'll have to figure it out for themselves.
Especially considering if we record it on April Fool's Day, it won't go out for weeks.
Well, they'll have to do it real soon then.
Yeah.
We should record a whole entire show doing second edition. Just give all the wrong information because we have no clue about second edition.
Or a whole different game system. Do it like for, I don't know, Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, what's it? D20 Radio's Order 66 on their first year. They did an April Fool's show, and their whole April Fool's, they started a couple weeks early, like, oh, they got this letter saying some bad news, and it's going to affect the podcast. And then they finally led up to, they started saying in podcasts, we can't talk about this, we can't talk about that. Then finally they said they had a brief announcement saying the podcast was over, that LucasArts had written them and said, cease and desist their podcast, and they were going off the air, and that was their final broadcast, 1 minute. They weren't allowed to talk about anything to do with Star Wars whatsoever because they were violating. And they left that message up, and then, people were writing in and pouring, and then they're like, April Fools!
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so they had everybody all in an uproar, defending them and writing in, and you're like, oh, April Fools, we were just kidding. There was no letter. They don't care that we're doing a podcast on the role-playing game.
If only this was 1995, we probably would get a letter from TSR.
Yeah, $$ R.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember those days?
Oh, my gosh, yes.
I put up a blog entry about a look back at the TSR old website. And it's funny, they actually have a post in the FAQ section that says why TSR does not like $R.
Because it makes them look bad?
They find the term offensive. You have to read the fact.
Oh,
so funny. The website is just so bad looking compared to today's websites. Obviously, why they had limited resources, but for a professional company website, it looked really bad. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Okay.
So keep it original, keep it old school, and remember, you rule the books, not the other way around. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Ciao.
Roll for initiative.